Hi, Dawn Lewis here, and it's day 2 of this 7-part video series featuring the beautiful Painted Rose stamp and die sets from Concord and Ninth. And if you are looking for these in Australia, you can find them at dawnlewis.com.au. So let's start at the very beginning. This one I'm doing a little bit differently. I have got here the line stamp, and on top of it is the large layering stamp, that big first solid layer. I've put them both together to line them up in my mini Misty stamping tool, the stamp positioner. I'm going to peel off the line stamp because I've used this so that I can make sure this layer goes where I want it to, and when the whole thing is together, it's going to take up the right space. I am starting with Picked Raspberry Distress Oxide inks. Oxide ink stamps so beautifully, and I'm stamping one layer of this, and then I will stamp a second layer just to really make sure that color is in there good and proper. The dye properties will sort of bleed through, will dye the paper, and the pigment properties make it beautiful to stamp. Now the next thing I'm doing is I have the line stamp lined up again and the second layering stamp. So this is going to put in that shadow detail of the rose. I'm going to peel away the line stamp, and now I'm going to stamp in that shadow detail using a Distress Oxide ink called Candied Apple. Lovely luscious red. Love it, love it, love it. And it inks up really well. Now these are not exactly coordinating colors. It's not like I'm doing a light pink and a dark pink, but I wanted to do something to really make it stand out. The next thing I'm doing is putting down my line stamp, lining up the first largest layer of leaves. I'm going to peel away that line stamp again, and the leaves are going to be exactly where I want them to be. I'm going to ink those up with another distress ink called Cracked Pistachio, and it's fantastic for leaves, works really, really nicely, and I'm just working with what I have. I'm going to double stamp it so that it's really well saturated, and I don't need the line stamp because there's a fantastic little notch, a triangle, I'll show it to you later, that shows you exactly where to line up those leaves. They're much easier to line up than the darker parts of the rose. So this one is Peacock feathers, and it creates a great contrast. Now it is time for the line stamp. There's a reason that I didn't stamp the lines first, and that is when you're using Distress Oxide inks, it's going to cover up the black, and you can see there the notch on the leaf that makes it very, very easy to line everything up. I will stamp with Ranger Archival Jet Black ink. It's going to be a lovely dark black, and it means that it's going to sit nicely on top of the Oxide inks. I did do a test run stamping with the black first, and the Oxide inks just completely covered the black. It wasn't a good look, and that's why I used the line stamp to line everything up. Here is the coordinating die for Painted Roses. I'm going to pop that through my Big Shot machine and cut out the entire shape. Leaves a great border. It does take off the splatters, but that's just part and parcel of die cutting. So they're there when you want to stamp them straight on, and you can remove them with the die. I have an A6 panel of white 200 gram cardstock, and I'm just taking a 1/4 inch off one of the long edges and one of the short edges so that there's a nice border all the way around. To create the fun sunburst background, I'm starting with Cracked Pistachio, and I'm working with a fairly limited palette. This is kind of a color clash project, and I'm going to be blending this Distress Oxide ink all over the background. I'm starting in the middle because it's mostly going to be hidden behind that great big hero rose, and it's easier to sort of blend out from a central point. I found that not a lot of effort was required, and I was able to go from quite an intense color in the center out to fairly soft. You'll be able to see it better, and I want to put in the sunburst effect using Peacock feathers, the same colors I used. Now I don't have a sunburst stencil to hand, so I improvised and used the packaging as my stencil. So I've created my own ray, and you'll see me lift up the edge of the packaging. That's so I can see underneath where I'm placing it to make sure that the gap I'm leaving is even. So I'm going to do that again, place it down. I'm just holding them in place. There's no tape, there's no glue. I'm just kind of making it up as I go. Having a sunburst stencil is a great resource. I loved this. I think I'm going to add one of these to my collection. I'll probably get the darkroom door one, the small one, because I only work on small surfaces really. And look, I can just clean that up with a piece of paper towel or a tissue. Easy. So I've got this background, it's a little flat and boring. So I'm just tapping some water to make some droplets all over the background and blotting that dry with a piece of paper towel. And it just adds a little bit more texture, interest and dynamics to the background. I'm going to apply a double-sided tape on the back of this beautiful rose as well as the panel. I want to make sure my card base is opening the right way. We don't want to stick this on upside down. I'm going to secure the card base and then add the rose onto that. So you can see there's a sunburst kind of coming out from the center of the rose. I've cut off the leftover pieces of leaf that fall over the edge, and I'm actually going to pop that one in there. Look, I'll be honest, I did think about using that small one. I thought, no, that's ridiculous. It's too small. I couldn't use it. So I just removed it. And it's worked really well. It, rather than throw it in the bin, why not add an extra leaf? Now it's time for the sentiment, and I'm using a sentiment from the Incroad Stamps Majestic AF stamp set. Love this set as well. And this great little stamp says, "You're lovely." I'm going to stamp it on a strip of white cardstock using archival jet black ink and trim it down just a little bit so that, I thought about doing a pennant kind of look, taking a notch out, and then I thought, hang on, I'm going to go edgy and funky because I've got these diagonal lines on the card. So I've just cut a small piece, like a corner, a chunk off there. And you want to be sure when you're matting it that when you cut the mat, you are going from the corner of the mat and matching the line on the way up, because if you leave a bit of a squared off edge, it kind of ruins the effect of having that pointy bit. I did expect for this to hang off the edge, and I'm just going to use scissors to trim off the excess. It's great because you can use the edge of the card as a guide for cutting. Now, Oxide inks are quite matte in their finish, so I'm adding a little bling to kind of zhuzh up this card. I'm starting with a couple of small silver sequins, and then I thought I would add some Nouveau crystal glaze or crystal drops. This is Morning Dew, which is a clear colour, and one of the fun things about this is it sometimes absorbs the ink that you put it on. So if you're putting it on distress ink, it'll absorb up that color. Now you can tap the back of the project to make any of the peaks. It's like an icing bag. When you put this on, there's a little point on it. You can tap it on the table. I'm using a pin to take out some of the bigger sections, and it's creating these cool glossy like dewdrops on the card. It's very cool stuff, and it will be coming into the store soon. So this is the card, and this is day 2 of our 7-part series. I do hope that you are enjoying these ways to get more value from your stamps. Please read on the blog to see all my top tips about getting the best value you can from the supplies that you have. If you're looking for Concord and 9th in Australia, you can find it at dawnlewis.com.au. I do hope you will join me tomorrow for day 3 in this 7-part series. Have a very crafty day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.